Welcome back to Fractured Folklore. Ready for another round of D&D stories? We've got you covered. Have you got a story you'd like to share? Feel free to let us know in the comments below.
Solving the unlocked door. The party just entered a long stone corridor of a dwarven cult hideout known for their tricks. They fought off the gelatinous cube guarding their hallway and encountered a door. They see there's dwarvish writing engraved in the wooden door. It reads, "I am everything yet nothing. A vast expanse that fits in your hand. I do not eat or drink, but can be destroyed in an instant. I live alone, with no friends and no thoughts." One of the party members tell the others what's on the door, and they begin to think, yelling out answers left and right. Silence, a door. I try to hug the door because it looks sad, and as the DM, I repeatedly have to say to them, the door does nothing. After about 5 minutes of guesses, one of them has the great idea to make a perception check to see what the door looks like in detail. Nat 20, total of 22. I tell him, you observe the door. It's thick, expertly carved, dark oak, with beautiful gold trim and the written engraving in the middle. There's 2 handles and ornate door knockers, one on each door. You can't see anything through the minuscule gap in the door other than darkness, and there doesn't seem to be anything else on the door. Me subtly hinting that there's no lock. It's now been 10 minutes. They've tried to shoot an arrow at it, knock on the door, look around for a key, and yell out more answers. At this point, I told them the tale of Eric and the Dread Gazebo as they've never heard it. Now, they've spent a full 16 minutes so far, and after no one has done anything meaningful and just continuing to guess, one of them says, "The door's locked, right?" Another one answered, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's locked." I had to hold in my laughter, and tell them that they indeed do not know if the door is locked. They think about this some more. After a few more guesses, one says, "I try to open the door." As he reaches for the handle, he turns it, and the door opens smoothly. Everyone had to let out all the laughter about the fact that they spent so much time on an unlocked door. Sometimes, the right answer is the most obvious. But in D&D, we get so caught up in the puzzles and traps it seems impossible for anything to be that easy. Especially when next time, whoever grabs the handle might get a surprise they didn't want. My 2.5-year-old character died and the dungeon master cried about it. So, for context, this campaign was my 3rd ever campaign and my character was your simple, knight that protects your friends and is super loyal to the end. I played a lot of MMORPGs, so I made him kind of like a tank. I used to play a lot of Intera, if you know what that is, but my character was very bland. I ended up being the main character for the first story, and the DM helped me flesh out the character more, which I'm very thankful for. She made him this respected knight that used to protect the princess, but retired due to some conflict. Yesterday, I and my party took a mission from the board. The DM adds these missions just to level us up before the main story mission, so we are ready, but they are rare, without a thought. When we got there, it was very simple, just some spider monster, until we got to the final room and we met the boss monster. It was just, like, the mother spider. We get into this fight and we are just rolling horribly, the dice were just not with us. It got so bad that we started to disengage, but the monster started to follow us, but I knew if any of my friends got hit, they are done, so in the instant I just said, screw it, me dying is better than a team wipe, so I attack, hoping she was low so that I might kill it or let my friends get away. I block one attack, roll for a 21 to hit and did decent damage, so I thought I could win if her next attack didn't hit because I was already pretty low, but I wasn't so lucky and she killed me. My friends did end up getting away and the DM, she was like, in shock. I thought it was kinda funny until she started to cry and said she was sorry, it was all her fault for making the boss too hard. I told her it was okay, and even our other friends said I really didn't like my character, but she would not just stop blaming herself. I told her it was okay and I can just make a new character. I don't know if she grew to like the character or if she just got scared that she killed such a long-lasting character. P.S. What doesn't make any sense to me is that my character was the second last of the original party. There are 4 of us, so 2 original characters have already died, but it's been like 1.5 years since the last one died. If I'm being honest, I prefer to have no player character deaths if possible. But sometimes it happens, and it can be really difficult if you've gotten attached. At least in this case the player was alright with it and it was a great character moment, too. How do you handle these situations as a DM? Do your players often end up needing new characters, or do you stick to the original party as much as you can? That time my Useless Paladin set up camp. In my first ever D&D adventure, I played as a human paladin named Franz. Franz, despite being an absolute unit of a character, I rolled extremely well on his stats, completely and utterly failed at anything combat related. He never once got anything above a 16 while attacking. For some reason, while we were stopping in the middle of the woods to rest, one of my 3 other party members, our priest, jokingly asked me to do something useful with my strength, and so I decided to set up camp while they were gone doing something. Nat 20. I was flabbergasted, and I decided to cook the raw meat I was carrying. National fricking 20. What my party came back to was an absolutely immaculate campsite, well cooked and seasoned meat for me somehow finding spices with a couple of lesser, but still way above average, rolls, and me, sitting there, mushroom meat kebab in my hand, staring into the night sky. That night, we all got 5 temporary hit points and the one who usually cooked our food, who was, funnily enough, also the priest, asked me how I managed to cook such a meal with what little we had. I guess I'm just pretty resourceful, Franz said, with complete seriousness. Franz said it was camping magic when she continued to press on how I did it. The next time we set up camp, after another few combats my character flubbed, we were by a lake. The priest coughed into her hands and said, "I'll be staying with Franz as he sets up the camp. I want to see if he is actually a paladin." Of course, in character and out of character, I was confused. Why wouldn't I be a paladin? The others in our party left, and I was alone with a suspiciously suspicious priest. So, I asked, "What should I do?" and she said, "Whatever magic you did last time, do it again. Maybe make a canoe while you're at it." Alright. I take out the camping gear, take out my dice, and roll. Nat 20. At this point, both Franz and I are a bit annoyed that we're better at setting camp than fighting, while the priest rolled a Nat 1 perception check and now somehow believes that I used sorcery to set camp. The priest keeps this information to herself, not wanting to reveal me until the rest of the party comes, and so I continue with cooking. 19. I played the roll off as me fumbling after seeing the priest intently glaring at me. For some odd reason, the priest decides another perception check is due. Nat 1 again. Now the priest believes I messed up a bit on purpose in order to throw her off of my true capabilities and is now paranoid I'm not even lawful good out of character because of how I'm grinning and, to be honest, this is actually becoming funny now. The other players and DM take this as their cue to come back, but I'm not quite done yet, so I ask them to wait out of character. I walk up to the priest, staring down at her as she looks up in fear, and ask, "Do you still have that bandit's axe with you?" Both priest and priest player are confused, but nod in affirmation and give Franz the axe. Franz then walks to the river, holding an axe, a sword on his hip and a shield on his back, as I ask the DM if I can roll a perception check for good canoe wood somehow. National fricking 20. The entire table has burst into applause at this point while I'm absolutely crying laughing as Franz knocks and feels the wood of tree after tree until somehow finding a birch tree that definitely shouldn't be cut, but looked absolutely perfect for a canoe. At the table, the DM speaks up and says, "Anything less than a 20, you won't be able to cut and work that tree into a canoe. Something bad will happen if you fail." At this point, I literally cannot stop. This has been the most character growth Franz has had in his entire life, from being seen as an incredible prodigy of a child, being taught by the church to be a paladin, absolutely sucking at being a paladin, and now being the best camp setter the world had ever seen. Franz quite literally cannot fail this. And he doesn't. The DM describes Franz's eyes glowing white as he swings his now glowing axe. The birch tree is sundered with divine energy, absolutely shattering the axe and leaving a perfectly cut log. Somehow, the damage dealt to the bottom of the tree also cut its top off. But it doesn't stop there. My shield, now fueled with divine ordainment, is used as a wedge with the sword's pommel being used to bash it into the tree, carving it out. Once the log is carved out and my shield crumbles away, I use my sword to carve the bark off the log, leaving a perfectly made canoe in place of a now broken sword. Fist shining bright, a holy punch is brought down on what's left of the tree, shattering branches into pieces and causing his now destroyed gauntlet to fall off. Fran's eyes stopped glowing, and all that's left of his original equipment is what he didn't bring with him. He looks around, seeing the priest is down on her knees praying to her own god, then sees the rest of the party coming back due to the commotion, and waves. The party wizard comes over and casts Detect Magic because before all of this, priest had told the rest of the party of her suspicions of me being a high-level sorcerer. The wizard finds that, in fact, the tree was magical in nature and does an arcana check, having to use her lucky feat to get a 20. The tree was alive. Keyword, was. Franz had cut down an awakened tree. It was meant to be the miniboss encounter for next session. I turned a miniboss into a canoe. The city we were going towards was right across the lake and it would be much faster to go by boat, so the DM had made the awakened tree encounter to dissuade us from cutting trees and skipping the forest entirely. Now, we had a fairly indestructible canoe. After we slept, still getting THP after arguing a bit with the DM, we got ready to set off. Before leaving, I picked up the bark of the tree and the branch of the tree. I looked at the DM and smiled. He scowled and said that I didn't even have to roll, because, somehow, the bark shifted into the form of a shield and the branch a mace in my hand. Giddy as can be, I asked if I can do the same thing to make the other branches oars, and he said yes, defeated. The wizard player asked if that wasn't Fabricate, a 4th tier wizard spell. The DM said, I don't think that really matters anymore. Franz is obviously the ultimate worker, and you couldn't have used the spell half as well as him anyway. The wizard player laughed and nodded in agreement. We drifted off in the ultimate canoe towards the city, priest asking Franz how he was capable of having such a connection to God, wizard asking how I was capable of casting Fabricate while not being a wizard, and the druid, who's quite literally been here the whole time, silently glaring at Franz because he had more control over wood than him. His only response? What, you've never seen camping magic before? And you know what the best part is? Franz became level 2 the moment before swinging that axe, his god allowing him to use a maxed out divine smite in order to fell the awakened tree that was, admittedly, weaker due to our low levels. That was my milestone in order to get to level 2. Franz, the one who did pretty much nothing in every encounter, reached level 2 before anyone else in the party by soloing a miniboss encounter before even rolling initiative. TLDR, Useless Paladin gets taunted by party, learns is perfect at setting camp and cooking, priest asks Paladin to set camp again and make a canoe, Paladin calls upon his god to smite down a living tree and turn it into a canoe. Paladin becomes level 2 and learns camping magic. The entire party is now jealous of Paladin for different reasons and is happy he is finally useful.
Thanks for tuning into Fractured Folklore and letting us add more stories to your life. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.